Hey guys, so this video is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to talk to you about my current sprint training. I've mentioned it passingly in a few videos lately, but I've kind of belittled its importance as far as what motivates me right now and where my goals are. So I wanted to do a video about this specifically. And I think what inspired me to kind of start taking this more seriously is that I turned 29 a couple months ago. So 30 next year. 30 is that age where athletes just start declining. At least that's kind of what's assumed. 30 is not a good year for athletes, although there are plenty of exceptions, including track athletes. So Justin Gatlin, for example, is 37 and the second or third best 100-meter sprinter in the world this year. So plenty of exceptions. And Michael Rogers is right up there too. Anyway, I played football for like 10 years, and speed was always my best attribute. I was never an elite speedster or anything like that, but I've kind of regretted as an adult not pursuing that and actually doing track-specific training. Never really did that. Kind of once I got to high school and realized that I was unexceptional, at least to an extent unexceptional, instead of wanting to work harder at it, which I think would be my response now, I just kind of gave up on it. And lots of good things came from me not pursuing it. Music, for one. But it's something I've always been really interested in. I've always been interested in track. Always been a track fan. I've made my wife watch track many times. Made my parents watch track. I just like watching the fastest people in the world run as fast as they can. And when I talk about track, I'm talking mostly about the shorter sprints, 60 meters to about 400 meters, and the hurdling versions of those two. So I'll get into the program next. Before I do that, though, I want to at least say this up front. This is not something I'm recommending to anybody, especially a beginner or somebody who's been off the track for a while. This is something that I've gradually worked up to over the course of almost a year at this point. I've kind of treated my sprints as non-specific for a while, but I have been sprinting a couple of times a week, 2 to 3 times a week, pretty consistently for close to a year. So this is the current program after all of that, and I'll also say that all of these sessions happen after about 15 to 20 minutes of warming up, if not more. So if you're interested in some sprint training, definitely look up sprint warm-ups as well, and I might go over those in a later video too, if this video has a positive reception. So we'll see. So now I'm doing 4 sprint days per week, working those around my weight training and my music schedule. So if I have a really intense sprinting session or a really intense lifting session, I try not to schedule those on a night when I have a show. This week that's going to be almost impossible. So some weeks it may actually take 8 or 9 days to get through all 4 sprinting sessions. So I'm doing what is basically a DUP style. So doing this, setting it up like I would a fairly intense powerlifting or bodybuilding program, just a strength training in general program. So earlier in the week, intensity is higher. Later in the week, intensity is lower, but volume is higher. So I might actually rearrange that for powerlifting and go high volume to low volume, higher intensity. But with sprinting, those longer days are just harder on me, and it just makes more sense for me to do it that way. So day 1, this is the lowest volume, the highest intensity. I'm doing 3 sets of 3, and the difference between reps and sets here is that between reps, I may only rest 1 to 2 minutes, especially on this day. So those rest periods between reps are always going to be shorter, and then the rest periods between sets may be on the hard days up to 10 minutes. So those are going to be longer in every session than the rest periods between reps. And I hope that makes sense. I'll link the program in the description, and hopefully that will clarify some of that too. So 3 sets of 3 sprints. The first set of 3 is 10 yards each. Second set of 3 is 20 yards each. Third set of 3 is 30 yards each. And then these, again, are 90 to 100% intensity. So going pretty much all out on those. Day 2 is 3x3 by 60, and these could be in meters or yards. It depends on where I'm doing the sprints, which depends on my schedule. So don't get too bogged down by that. I'm not competing in this, so that's not super important. So this will be 3x3 by 60, and these are at about 85%-ish. It's much more difficult to gauge those percentages on sprinting than it is to gauge the percentages in the gym. Obviously, in the gym, you can just load on 70% of your max, and it's 70% of your max. But gauging your intensity with sprinting is difficult. It's an art. Professional sprinters are very good at gauging themselves and even going 98% instead of 100 through the first 100 of a 200 meters. It's very impressive, and there's a lot more that goes into it than people realize. But anyway, that's day 2. Day 3 is 2x2 by 100 and 2x2 by 80. So you'll see a little bit of that from earlier today in this video. These are around 75%, but one other thing about those percentages is even if I'm going 75% through the first 40 meters or so, right now with the shape I'm in, which is not where I want to be, to maintain that intensity throughout the entire sprint, I'm still close to 100 by the end of the sprint. And another thing about that too is a lot of sprinting is just gaining momentum. So starting slowly can sometimes make the end of a race more difficult. I'm still learning about this too, but track coaches may have lots of other things to comment on in this video, but this is what I'm doing, and it seems to make sense for me. But I'm not an expert on sprint training research. I do think there's quite a bit less of it than there is of powerlifting and strength sports, but it's definitely out there, and I'm doing my best to follow a program that makes sense from a scientific perspective too. So that's day 3, 2x2 by 100, 2x2 by 80. Day 4 sucks. It is 3 by 200 meters. It usually is meters this day because there's really not anywhere I can go besides the track where I can run all out for 200 meters in a row and actually have it be somewhat accurate. So 3 by 200 meters and then 3 by 100 meters. And these are around 70%. And yeah, they suck. It's also very hot in Alabama, so I'm trying to do these as early as possible. I may have to do some night sessions in the future because of the school where I run their hours, but I'll figure that out when I get there. So that's all 4 sessions. I think I've covered most of the basics on them, but I just want to reiterate, this is not a recommendation for anyone else. And this is not something I plan to do for a ton of time. Like in powerlifting, you want to implement progressive overload. And right now I'm doing 4 weeks of exactly the same thing. Then I will taper, kind of see where I am by timing myself compared to my previous PRs. I'll share more of that when I have some more specific goals and when I've been doing this a little bit longer, if you guys are interested. But assuming that I improve just a little bit, I'll probably make some slight adjustments to the training and probably gradually decrease volume, gradually increase intensity overall in kind of a block fashion. So that's my plan as of now. I never know what's going to happen with my work and show schedule, but hopefully I can work around it. And I'll have you guys following along, hopefully. That'll be another thing that you guys can watch on the channel. I'm just not really getting super motivated to set PRs in the gym, but this is really fun for me to set PRs and set goals and set PRs on the track. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I'll share, like I said, I'll share more stuff about my goals and when I reach them, more track videos as I kind of figure out how to film and record that. But that'll be coming soon, assuming that this video gets some likes. So if you did like this, please like it, share it, and if you haven't subscribed, I'd love for you to subscribe for future videos like this, more gym videos, some random music vlogs, but not too much music. I think if I post that, that will be kind of a separate thing. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you next time.